Great. Great. Wonderful. Well, thanks for joining me. I appreciate it, especially before a long weekend. I don't know if you saw in the email today, this talk was supposed to be about dealing with your stuff, but my lovely woman that I work with that does downsizing and decluttering has come down with COVID. And
oh, you're kidding.
she was not able to join us. Yeah, she's feeling pretty rough. So I've moved that till the last session. So
Perfect.
yeah, so we'll do this session. I was going to skip a week, and then there will be the virtual property tours, and then the last one will be dealing with your stuff, that's usually the most popular one. Yeah, for good reason. Okay, so last week, you were here last week, and we talked about starting and motivation and where to start and the financial pre-planning. All right. Did you have any questions from that maybe?
No, not really.
Forward.
I think I just know what to do. I just haven't put it into effect.
Okay. Okay. Fair enough. So, well, that's why we're doing this, right?
Absolutely.
Good work tomorrow is to do good work today, and that's what we're doing. And so there's the plan. You know, somebody on the last session said maybe you should do the dealing with your house and preparing your house earlier in this series, and that might be true because it does require some preparation work. But I have to say, I meet people at every stage of the process. So in the past year, I've dealt with a couple of people who brought me in, you know, just as they were moving out. I had actually a couple that moved into Guildwood Chartwell before Christmas and had no plan to do anything with their house because they hadn't got that far. It was just overwhelming. So they really walked out of the house with their suitcase, moved into Guildwood, and then kept coming back to their house trying to get things done. And, you know, we're a bit at a loss to do it. When they brought me in, I could kind of come in and take over. So everybody's got a different time frame dealing with their house. But so I've thought through that with this, and I have a couple of ideas. You know, some people plan this years in advance. My mom, when she moved from her house to her condo, she did it a year in advance.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, she's very organized that way. I can't believe she did it all. She did all that on her own because I had babies. And now I look back and I go, wow, I can't believe she did that. So I do have a couple of quizzes. You know, you're the only quizzy. I can't do this, but I do have a couple of them. And so they're always kind of fun to do. I wish they would let me answer too, but they can't. Can you see that? So
yes, I can.
Little tester. What's your favorite season?
Summer.
All right. Well, isn't that good? And now we're in summer and you can enjoy it. Perfect.
Exactly.
And then if we can share the results of that, of your own answer. So we can skip through the quizzes then. Okay. So get back to, oh, hang on one second here. This might be somebody wanting to join us. I'm just going to take this.
Wow.
Hello, this is Sue. Hi, I'm good. Oh, okay. Rosa, can I call you back in about an hour? Thank you. Bye. That was somebody calling about a house I have for sale. So we can do that later. Okay. So I'm not sure about what the real estate market was like when you bought your house, but when I bought my house, even just 15 years ago, when I'm in the house now, I didn't really expect it to be perfect and to my taste and to my liking. And certainly home staging was in parts of Toronto, but not in the suburbs. So it is a very different climate. So if you bought your house when you're going out, your clubbing outfit looked like that, or your phone looked like that, and which my kids don't even know how to use, then you might find it's a very different real estate climate now than it was then. And you do have to do a fair amount of work should you choose to in fixing your house up and getting it ready for sale. Now, you can sell your house as is, or you can do, you know, everything, or you can do nothing. It's a sliding scale. But generally, there is some prep work involved in getting it ready for sale, especially if you want to maximize the return on it when you're selling. So that's what this is about. So again, you can do nothing and do everything. I did a presentation at 2 and there was a couple on it and they figure their house's land value and it's going to get knocked down and build a big monster home when they sell. So, they're not going to spend the money to fix it up. They're going to do other things with their money. But in terms of getting a house ready to sell, really, we've spent a lot more time now on getting it ready and presenting it. A lot of it is decluttering. That is the biggest thing to do, whether or not you're selling as a downsize or whether you're selling as a move up or even just selling a condo. Decluttering is huge. Getting a home inspection at the beginning of the process is also something I can sometimes recommend, whether you're doing it to give it to the buyers so that they can buy with confidence, or whether you're only doing it so that you know what a home inspector would find and therefore you'd like to know what that is and fix things if you need to. A home inspector for a few $100s can come in and help you through that. Generally, repairs are made. There's always those little niggling things that sit around and you go, oh, I've left that for 5 years. I really should replace that tap. And then there's getting into doing renovations and painting and things like that, just to net you the most money, and of course, deep cleaning. So I'm going to kind of go through. I've thought about the houses that I've sold recently over the past couple of years for people that are downsizing, and I found that they fell into 4 different distinct groups. So I thought, grouping this together and talking about how we prepared each house for sale might help people think about their house and what kind of things you do if you fall into one of those 4 groups. So that's where this is going.
Yeah.
So the first group that I find is that the house is in fairly rough shape, that the homeowners in this case, it tends to be similar, that they've done things that needed to be done when they needed to be done, but they didn't spend money over the years on their house. So and sometimes it's just that that's not important, having, updated kitchen. They don't care. As long as it works and it's functional for them, that's fine. So no updates done since the homeowner has moved in. Sometimes there's older systems in place. And by systems, I mean the air conditioner, the furnace, the roof, the big ticket items.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody else is coming in. Hang on. Let's get Judy. Hi, Judy. You've got your mic mute. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Great. Thanks for joining us.
but I had lots of trouble getting on.
Oh, boy, that's too bad. I don't know why. Yes, last time some people had trouble getting on in the afternoon, but not the evening.
Oh,
Well, you're
actually,
here now.
so
That's what's important.
Sue, to get on now, I went into the 2:00 one.
Oh, okay.
The 7:00 one just wouldn't work.
And this is the 2:00 and you joined it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's funny. Okay, well, I'm glad you're here.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. So I switched the topic of this meeting, Judy, just to catch you up.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about decluttering and downside and it's about getting your house ready to sell. The lady that does the decluttering had COVID and couldn't join us, so she's going to do the last session.
Yeah. Okay.
So when I meet people and they are getting their house ready to sell, they kind of fit into 4 different groups. So what I did is to talk about what you do to get your house ready. I kind of grouped it by the type of people and houses that I find, because they tend to fit into these 4 different distinct areas. So the first one are people that maybe have lived in a house a long time and have not been able to keep it up. And sometimes it's just because that's not important to them. Sometimes it's because they don't have the money. It doesn't really matter. But in general, I find that the house hasn't had any updates since they moved in. So, house built in 1974, the kitchen's still functional. Over time, they've replaced the fridge or the stove, however that works, but they haven't, done the counters and the cupboards and all of that things. In some cases, the furnace and the AC have been replaced, but often when I meet them, they're kind of at the end of their functional life, which is about 15 to 20 years. In a lot of cases, these home needs repairs, and in some cases they have been maintained, in some cases they have not been maintained, and they're the type of house that you would think of as an estate sale, but people are still living in them, or kind of an as-is type of a property. So that's the first type. The second type is, I'm going to say, it's like an Italian Nona house. So they move in 1974. It's got beautiful tile. The house is spotless. They update all of those important things that need to be updated, but it looks like a time capsule. So you think of the living room, you're not able to walk in. You're not allowed to touch the hardwood floor. The furniture has plastic over it. You know, everything is perfect. The driveway gets washed every Sunday, whether it needs it or not. Apparently that's a thing when you're Italian. So no decor updates have been done since the homeowner moved in, but everything is pristine, and all of those important functional things that were important when we bought a house have been very well maintained and updated over time, and or replaced with quality items when they're needed. So they spend money when they can, and it's super, super clean, very house proud. So that's kind of the second sort of people. Then probably most people fall into this kind of category. The house has been well maintained. There have been some renovations over time, but generally the renovations are 15 to 20 years old. So had some money after the kids moved out, when you started to retire, redid the kitchen, redid the bathrooms, and now it's 15, 20 years later, and styles have changed. And sometimes it's somebody who's handy and has done them themselves. Sometimes it's professional renovations. Either way, these are the majority of the houses that I see. And then the fourth is a very unique or customized property. And that would be on, we all have streets in our neighborhood where we go, oh, that's like the best street in the neighborhood. You know, in Guildwood, it's Sylvan Avenue or Hill Crescent. In my neighborhood, which is the Rouge, there's a couple of streets that back onto ravines. And if you live there, you know these streets are special, but if you don't live there, you don't know. Or so if you have a unique home on one of those streets, or if you have a very highly customized property. So people with indoor pools, people with greenhouse rooms, where they actually grow plants inside, somebody who has a sauna downstairs or has a lap pool in the basement, these sort of things. There are not that many of them out there, but they provide a challenge when you're going to sell because they've been highly customized to the owners. So those are the kind of four properties that I generally deal with. So now I am going to do the little quiz. Now we actually have more than one person to answer the quiz. Yeah, it's exciting. So thinking of your house, which one does it kind of fall in? This is, I've put the little descriptions there so you can kind of remember what I'm talking about. And there's, can you see the quiz?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay. So you can kind of read through that and vote. Great. Okay. So, well, both of you are in the same category then. I don't have to name names because it's self-evident here. Okay, great. Thank you for that. Okay. Can you see the quiz page now? That's gone away, the poll questions?
I see the poll results.
You see the poll results. Okay.
Do you want me to go on to the next?
No, I want to, there. Can you just see the slide that says quiz now?
Yes.
Yeah, yes.
That's where I want to be back again. Okay. So to back up a little bit, I want to talk about today's home buyers and look at these things from the buyer's eyes to see why is it important to do updates before you sell. It might seem self-evident, but again, it's different than when I bought, and the expectations are different for today's home buyers. And I find I meet a lot of people and they say, why should I put money into the house before I sell it? Because they're just going to change it to their own taste. So what I want to do is kind of share with you from the buyer's eyes, how they perceive home and how they look at home buying, because I do work with buyers too. And I will tell you that my observation is they're very consistent, whether you are downsizing and buying a condo, or whether you're buying your first property and it seems like an enormous amount of money for you, or you're selling your first home that you've put a lot of work into and you're buying another home that's bigger. Everybody feels the same way. It doesn't matter. This transcends age, demographics, money, everything. Everybody feels the same way with this. So today's home buyers are really influenced by TV shows and social media, if they're a bit younger even. So what I call this is the HGTV generation, where they watch all these shows, especially if you're going to buy a house, you've got that channel on all the time and you're watching these shows where they renovate, or they have a contest of renovating, or they're doing a fixer-upper, or they're doing a flip. This media is out there and it influences how people think about buying a home. Do you guys watch these TV shows?
Yeah.
Yeah, so do I. So do I. And they care about some things more than previous generations, and they care about some things less than previous generations. And what they mostly care about less is the age and the quality of a primary house components. So they would choose something pretty over something with a new furnace. Doesn't matter whether what they're talking about is relative in cost. They like the pretty and the functional stuff that you can see, and they value that more. Buyers value that more. Younger buyers do not care too much about formal entertaining areas. So they would rather have a casual, open concept property. And I think the older generations like that too. But so gone are the days with the formal dining room separated out. They care less about the size of the property. So owning a home is important, but the size of the land is not. And they are, hang on a second, there's somebody else joining us. Shirley. All right. And formal gardens are not that important. So a lot of gardeners out there, that for a young family, that can be intimidating, because they figure they're going to have to spend a lot of time caring for the property, and a formal garden. They like things that are easy to care for. And in general, they're not as handy as my generation or my parents' generation. So any updates that they see, they add a double the dollar value than maybe our generation would, because they're not as handy. So they view updates to be expensive because they have to hire a contractor to do it. And while they say they're okay with fixer-uppers, I've experienced this exact thing that's in the picture, where they'll say, oh yeah, we're willing to do some work, that's great. And then they walk into a room where they don't like the wall color and go, oh, well, you'd have to paint this room. That's a lot of work. That's more work than I want to do. So their perception of doing work is pretty minimal. And I will tell you, anybody downsizing, they've been through it. They've been through the renovations. They've been through the painting. They don't want to do it again. You know, they would like something that is move-in ready. So all generations feel the same with this. So what attracts today's buyers? Something that they feel is move-in ready. Something with lots of storage. And we can talk about storage when Claire gets on, if you know how much you need to clear out of your house to show that there's lots of storage. Cleanliness. They like professional finishes, whether they're professional or not. It needs to be well put together. Really important that it looks like TV. So right now, minimalist decor, farmhouse modern, Scandinavian, white, everything white is very in style, and they are drawn to that. And that helps you when you're doing renovations, choosing colors and things like that. Light, bright, and neutral. So gone are the heavy draperies and things like that. And, you know, they gravitate to blinds and sheers. Minimalist decor, less furniture pieces, less formal furniture, lots of IKEA. And it's true. I mean, that's what they like. And they do, while they don't like a big formal, you know, garden to look after, since COVID, an outdoor living space is much more important. So anything with patio, you know, lights outside, areas where you can put seating, areas where they can say, oh, I can put one of those little fire pits there. Pools now add value to a house where 5 years ago before COVID, it wouldn't have added value to it. All of those kind of outdoor living spaces are important, but not necessarily something that you have to maintain or spend a lot of money or time looking after. Okay. So why should you care? You're moving out of your house, let them deal with it. Why should you care? Well, in a lot of cases in the suburbs, you are dealing with a family that's moving up from a space that's too small. So they're coming from East York. In my neighborhood, they come from East York generally, they come from Leslieville, they come from the beach, and they are sitting on a house that is worth about $1.4 million. That's a tiny 3-bedroom, 100-year-old attached home with, you know, a basement you can't stand up in, and it's still worth $1.4 million. And they're bringing that money with them to buy your house. So preparing your house for sale to, you know, updating it to today's taste can net you thousands of dollars. Or in a market that we're experiencing now where it's a little bit slower and there's a few houses for sale, it can mean your house will sell faster. The trick is figuring out what you do, where you spend your money, and where's the best return to get you that. But that's basically why you care, to sell faster, more money, and stand out from the competition. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Any questions so far?
No, I'm fine.
Okay. So I am going to get into the fun stuff. So now what I'm going to do is share kind of my ideas on where you should spend the money and what you should do in priorities for each of those type of properties that I have. Now, it may not relate to your property directly, but you might know somebody or be dealing with family where you have to take a look at a property that's different than yours and these, or friends, and this might help you with information at least. And then I'm going to show you some before and afters, because who doesn't love a before and after? That's a good one to show you kind of what I'm talking about. So first type of property, that the ones that need a lot of TLC. They've had deferred maintenance and few, if any, updates. Now you can decide just to sell it as is. That's fine. I have to understand that the price is different for an as is house than it is for a house that is got some updates to it. Also, on the financial side of things, a house that says as is all over it in a listing sends red flags to a lender at the bank. So you may have a smaller buyer pool because the banks will say, well, you're just saying as is, buyer beware. We're a little bit shy to lend against that. So being able to raise it up a bit helps with that and helps expand the number of buyers that will be able to buy your house. So number one, declutter. Number two, do all the repairs that you need to have happen. Number three, remove the wallpaper from the house and then fix the walls. Get a skim coat of plaster on, get a professional in there because that makes a huge difference. And then paint. And paint is your best friend. It like a 4-bedroom house on the main floor and the second floor, it's going to cost you $4,000 or $5,000 to paint the house. You'll probably get $20,000, $30,000 more for your house with a coat of paint. Yeah, it's very powerful. It's the cheapest, most powerful thing you can do. Replacing old dated carpet is also good. one thing that people don't like too much is, different flooring in every room. So if you have carpet and you're thinking of putting laminate in, sometimes it's better just to replace it with a clean carpet. It's cheaper too than doing that. And that way it just looks a little bit more intentional. Updating light fixtures. A lot of homes I go in still have the original builder fixtures, even from the 60s. You know, those ones that look like kind of a square handkerchief, like light fixture with two little light bulbs in it. Those ones, if you take those out and replace it with some nice LED lights and a nice inexpensive ceiling hugging light fixture that's modern and updated, that's $30 from Home Depot, you wouldn't believe how much that makes a difference to a room, that and a fresh coat of paint. I like to have an inspector in for these type of properties. And if you need to paint a whole house and it's hard for the people to come in quickly and do it with furniture and everything in the middle. So ideally, moving out first to your next property helps trades come in and do this kind of work quickly. The other thing you can do, even for a house that needs to be fixed up, is to do some work on the flooring. If it's all hardwood and that nice oak strip that is in a lot of 60s and 70s houses, either on the upstairs or on the main floor, a 3-bedroom bungalow, to do a sanding and refinishing with a clear coat costs about $2,500 for a 3-bedroom bungalow, just to give you an idea. And it can make a big difference in terms of, appealing to buyers. But those things, there are bullet points, because I think that those would be, if you had a bit of extra money, that's where you would spend it, and then do any updates to the kitchens or baths. And sometimes you can just paint kitchen cupboards and make it look brighter and more inviting. Any questions there? Okay, so I'm going to show you a house that I just sold in Bendale a couple of months ago. So this is what the house looked like. Unfortunately, I don't have befores of some of them because people are living in it, and it was, a little bit sensitive to take pictures. So these people moved out. They had lived in the house for a very long time. And one of the people that lived in the house was on a mobility scooter. So you can imagine that the floors weren't in great shape, and there was some damage to the house inside. They moved out, and then we got the trades in and did repairs, switched out light fixtures, and did painting. And one of the things we did was it's quite a pretty bungalow, but it was very distracting with that yellow and green fencing. And it was done very sloppy. So it didn't add to the quality of the house at all. So one of the first things we did was, the family had, there was a ramp at the front actually that goes along the front of the house. We took the ramp out because we didn't need that anymore with the mobility scooter, and this kind of handrail that looks like it's made out of popsicle sticks was about that stable. So we took that out and then painted the deck green and took away that yellow paint. And you can just see that it just elevates everything and improves the curb appeal. The other thing I'll talk about at the end is even just giving a fresh coat of paint on your front door or painting it a contrasting color sometimes really, makes a good curb appeal and updates that. And on the inside of this house, it had not been painted a very long time, and the rooms were all different colors. So we took my favorite color of gray, which I know is not really a color, and painted the whole inside of the house. So the trim, the ceilings, and the walls on the main floor were all done the same. And this, if you're looking for a good paint color, this is called Spun Wool from Behr, which is a Home Depot brand. And it's a really nice neutral color that blends with any kind of furniture. So you can bring gray furniture in and it looks nice. You can bring brown furniture in, it looks nice. It's halfway between a taupe and a gray, and it just brightens every room. Somehow it's got this magical light reflecting quality to it that just makes things look fresh and clean. And then white trim, it's dark enough that you can see the trim color pretty clearly, but not too dark that it makes the room dark. So it's really just a nice bright color. Painting things white all over too is very trendy now. Not my taste. I think it's a bit stark, but the young people like it. The other thing we did here is the floors were not in the greatest shape. We took out some carpet and revealed the hardwood. So at least people can say, well, at least there's no carpet to remove except for under that window where there was just plywood. But we put, if anybody remembers way back in the day, they had this product called Mop and Glow that you would put on your linoleum in the kitchen. Well, they do still make that sort of product, one for hardwood floors and one for kitchen. And if you have a floor that just, it cleans, but it's just not, you know, it's so worn that it doesn't look clean, something like that you can put on it and it just spruces it up for pictures and showings and things like that. So we did that here as well. And we did replace light fixtures, not the one that's in the front hall, but we did replace light fixtures in other rooms. So that was a fixer-upper that we fixed. Okay, so the second type of property is that the house has been maintained, but not updated, but it's super clean inside. And in that case, again, it's removing wallpaper and doing a fresh coat of paint, often that hasn't been painted in a while, updating the light fixtures a bit to make them more contemporary. And one other thing you can think of, quite often in these houses, people have hardwood cabinets, whether they're the old oak ones or, you know, maple or something like that. They tend to make the kitchens look fairly dark, and you can paint them. And that gives an update that is fairly inexpensive, that is really good for showing a property. And they can be painted white. There's two styles of cabinet doors, one with the European hinges that are on the inside and one with the traditional hinges, which are on the outside. And the painters can either paint them in place or take the doors off and paint them, take them to a place where they spray them, and it gives them a nice finish, and then updating the hardware. So in a house where maybe you just want to brighten it up by painting out some wood trim and finishes, this is a really good, inexpensive way to treat the kitchen. And then also in this type of house, a lot of times people will replace appliances and they don't necessarily match. And I would recommend, if you have a stainless steel stove, but your fridge and your dishwasher are white, probably buying stainless steel appliances to sell it, and then selling the used ones to somebody who's maybe putting them in a rental apartment or something. So don't give them to landfill, try and make some money from them. But to have the matching appliances is just spruces up a kitchen as well. Or conversely, you can put a white one in if you've got a stainless steel one. It depends on the money you've gotten, however you want to do it, because there's some nice white appliances too now. And they make them all colors. There's gunmetal gray, there's black. Okay, does that all make sense?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So here's an example of taking some carpet out. So this house, I don't know what they made 1970s carpet out of, but they should make the space shuttle out of it, because this stuff is indestructible. It was perfect in 1974 perfection, but it was a bit outdated, and really it was distracting, right? All you saw when you went into this basement room was the carpet. I bet you didn't even notice when you looked at the left picture that there's some wood paneling on the wall and a wood cabinet there, because the carpet was so distracting. So what we did in this case is just replaced it with some neutral Berber, and then we painted out the walls. So in this particular house, there was the side walls were paneled and the end walls were drywalled. So we painted everything the same color. So the side walls here are actually painted paneling, which is something I ran into a lot of 1970s houses. It's got paneling in the basement. And then that cupboard, which was built in, we also painted it white. So you can just see how fresh and clean it looks and updated with those small changes, which were quite inexpensive. And there's what the professional picture looked like when it was staged. And you can kind of see the texture on the wall there where we painted out the paneling. And every time I paint paneling, it looks amazing when it's done. And the only other thing you need to know is usually with old baseboards, you have to replace the baseboards. They just, they're kind of dry and brittle. And when you replace carpet or something like that, you have to do the baseboards too. Okay. So I think everybody can agree that that looks much more inviting.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Here's another one where the homeowners used the basement as a storage room. Again, lots of paneling. This one, the green thing is just a rug on the floor, but it had linoleum underneath. And what we did here was put carpet down over the linoleum because it was in good shape, and painted out all the paneling, painted the trim white. And then there were light fixtures, the old 2-bulb light fixtures, fluorescent light fixtures, and we took those out and put the little ceiling hugging lamps in. And this style of lamp I use in a lot of houses. Just looks modern and clean, and they're pretty bright when you put the bulbs in, and then that makes everything look very inviting. Okay. The third type of property is the ones that have had cosmetic updates recently, but not really brand new. And I find that some of these houses have some similarities, and this is what we generally do for this type of house. Paint, again, declutter and paint. The age-old argument of the men like wood trim and the women like it painted comes up over and over again. And I will tell you that to brighten things up, usually we will paint wood trim out, unless it's really, really nice, expensive wood moldings and things like that, or antique. We generally paint the smaller trim work out white. Think about matching flooring. So if you've updated the house, but the flooring, you did the flooring at a different time, it's hard to match it. If you can get a match in some places now, that's more preferable than to leave it the way it is. If you have to do any updates, upgrade any DIY finishes that might be showing their age. Again, have an inspector in, and then think about trading out any mismatched appliances. And with the painting in here, it would also be taking out some wallpaper. Wallpaper is trendy now, but it's only a certain kind of wallpaper that's trendy. And I find with some of these houses, they have a lot of wallpaper borders, whether it's a border around a room in the center, like or whether there's a border around the ceiling. And generally we take that all down and then just paint. This is a house that I sold in the spring, and the people just moved out into a retirement home and left the house in my hands. So they had a lot of things to do, but the kitchen was nice. The kitchen had been updated and the bathrooms had been updated, but everything else needed to be brought up to those standards. So this is what we did. This is the primary bedroom. It was a little bungalow. So there's the finish. Yeah. So that's that same color gray that I like. It just looks a little different in this picture. Same furniture. What we did is we took the furniture and spread it out in some other bedrooms so that it wasn't so crowded. And then just changed out to a nice new clean mini slat blind. So those little mini blinds now, they don't have cords anymore. They're all magnetic. So you just raise and lower it by pulling it at the bottom. And so it's a very clean look. There's no dangling bits or things like that for kids to play in. So, and then you can't see it, but we changed the light fixtures in the room as well. So that's one bedroom in that house. There's the other bedroom full of stuff, 2 beds in here. Again, we painted, we took one of the beds and used it in another room that I'll show you in a minute, and then repurposed the furniture that was in the master, spread it out in here. And then we actually took one of the dining room chairs and tucked that in the corner, because sometimes to show more space in a dining room, we take 6 chairs and we just put 4 around the table, and it makes more walking room around. So we use the little chairs in other rooms. And there's my husband. The next pictures I'm going to show you are the basement of this house. And to get to the stage that you're going to see next, took that bin. This house took 3 bins to clear. That's the basement bin. This is the basement before. You can see that they painted reluctantly, because where that white spot is on the wall was a desk. So they decided when they painted blue just to paint around the desk. And I had a vision of their kid doing it and going, okay, I'll paint the room, but I'll do the least of work possible to get it there. And the floor the carpet was in pretty rough shape. So instead of painting the whole room here, what we did is the rest of the room was okay. So we just matched the paint and only painted that wall. And even just doing one wall can make a big world of difference if you can get the paint to match. So there's the bed from upstairs, and some side tables from another room. And we used all their own furnishings just to stage this room by, peeling back some layers from another room. And then look at how inviting that looks. There's new carpet in this bedroom too. Yeah. So that's it for kind of getting houses spruced up. Then I'm going to talk a little bit about special homes. Does anybody have any questions?
No.
No? Okay. So if you're dealing with a special property, I find that sellers will attribute an enhanced value to it. And with a special area or street, often you didn't know it was special when you bought on the house. It was just the house that you liked. And then you came to realize that it was special over time. So buyers are the same. They don't always attribute a premium to that until they know more about the area, but sellers expect that premium. So they can be a little bit more challenging or take longer to sell until you find somebody that also agrees with your valuation of it. So it takes people a while to find a premium, because not all some streets you don't hear about, they don't sell very often. And then anything that's highly customized in homes, buyers may not share your taste. So if they need to change whatever that customization is, they'll generally subtract that from the offer price, and they generally would subtract more than you would be willing to discount. So taking the customization out before you sell sometimes avoids that kind of issue with a buyer, whether a buyer passes by the house or tries to discount it because of the customization. Sometimes customization can be little things like, you did I've seen this a lot in 70s houses. There's a wall of paneling in the basement that's all laid on an angle. And it's wood, and the guy loved it, your husband did it or whatever, and it's just in your face now, so painting it out helps with that sort of thing. So they can be little custom things, they can be big custom things. So where do you get the biggest bang for your buck? Paint is number one. I think I've shown you from the pictures that it is incredible how paint can transform a space. Painting the front door and the garage door. So doing something to increase the curb appeal of your home is also money very well spent. And you don't have to necessarily replace the old doors, you can paint them. And I'll show you an example next where we updated a front door and it really set the tone for the house. It looked gorgeous when it was done. Replacing old carpet, it can just be standard Berber, but doing that gives a real facelift. Updating light fixtures doesn't have to be expensive, just more modern makes a big impact. They also tend to be brighter than old light fixtures, so that's helpful. Matching appliances, perform the repairs, and do a landscaping refresh. All right, and so this is a very bad Google picture of a house I sold in Pickering, big custom house. I don't know if you can really kind of see, those doors are kind of primer white. So they were kind of grubby, they weren't shiny. That black strip across the bottom was the kick plates that had oxidized over time. And that was one of the biggest things we did to improve the curb appeal, was to update this front door.
Oh,
Yeah, it's nice. I was so happy with that. I was a little unsure that color would be too bright, but it looks spectacular.
yeah.
Yeah. So I bring my home stagers, which are basically decorators that help you sell your house, in for consultations, and they brought their paint swatch book and they went to the brick in the house and picked out a rust color from the brick and chose something to complement it and painted those front doors. And then you can buy those brass kick plates at Home Depot, and we replaced the old weathered ones with the new ones, and it just looked spectacular.
Yes.
Yeah. And we painted the garage door on this one too, but we kept the garage door neutral. It wasn't matching the door. It was more towards the color of the brick to blend in and have that front door really pop. Again, on this house, it had a lot of flower beds down the side. The homeowner couldn't quite get to, keeping it up the way she would have normally kept it up. And the son that lived with her wasn't a gardener. So what we did is we went in there and weeded all the raised beds, pulled out all the plants that didn't need to be there. And, well, paint is the biggest bang for your buck on the inside. Mulch is the biggest bang for your buck on the outside. Mulch is the paint on the outside. A few bags of mulch and the weeds are gone and everything looks beautiful. So that's kind of inside and outside. Again, we put some plants around the front door usually, but I don't usually do heavy landscaping, maybe some trimming if stuff's overgrown. But the big question when I sit down with people is, so how do we do it? How long does it take and how much do we spend, right? And every house is unique. So I usually do a plan with the homeowner to try and figure out where the money is spent most effectively. And decluttering can take quite a while because you kind of nibble at it all the time. So if you're planning to sell your house in the next couple of years, if you start decluttering now, it will make your life a lot easier. If you need to do some things to your house, I would suggest you sit down with somebody 6 to 8 months before you think you're going to do anything. And that way you can develop a plan and a budget. You can get quotes in, and then you can reserve tradespeople's time, because doing things quickly is sometimes hard in this business because the good trades get busy and they get some big jobs and it becomes harder to pull somebody in last minute. Having said that, you can do things in a month if you need to. You have to cross your fingers, your toes, and your eyes to get it done sometimes. In terms of cost, it's about $5,000 to $6,000 to paint a house, depending on how big it is and whether you're going to do it a basement right to the top. And then one thing you have to decide is what works best for you. Is it something where you don't want to have all this work around you? Would you rather move out and have it done, or whether you rather go someplace and then come back? Or how is it going to work logistically for you? So those are the kind of decision-making steps that you have to do. Okay. So does that make sense? Is there any questions? I don't usually come in and say you have to redo your kitchen, because I think that's the point where you go, and everybody has seen a house sell on their street and then a kitchen ripped out, a brand new kitchen ripped out the next week when people move in. And I think that's a waste of money. But I think all of these other things are well worth your money if you have a budget set aside to fix your house up before you sell. Any questions? All good? Okay. Okay. So I'm going to bring up the last quiz. We're almost done. So thinking on what you would need to do to your house. This is a multiple choice question, so you can decide and do more than one thing if you want. And so you have to scroll down because there's a big long list here. Can everybody see that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, what's the last one, Sue?
The last one is, it depends. So the last three are landscaping updates, a combination of all the above, but not sure which ones. And it depends on the cost and the return on investment.
Oh, okay.
And sometimes, I will say that it depends on the real estate market. In the spring, you wouldn't have had to do much because things were flying off the shelves. And so there was less, some money into it might have made you more money, but your house would have sold anyway. If it's a market where it's a bit slower, you may want to consider the money more. It's a little bit dependent on the market. Right. Okay, so thank you very much. Everybody has voted. The votes have been cast. We share results. So we have some decluttering and painting, replacing of carpets, combination, but not sure which. Okay, great. I think most people fall into the combination, but need some guidance on what gets you the most return on your hard-earned bucks. Okay. All right. Okay. Can you see just the quiz slide again?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, so that's pretty much the end of what I wanted to share with you today. Was there any questions that came up from that?
Do you have a team of people that work with you? I mean, electricians, painters,
Yeah.
plumbers
Yeah,
that you use regularly?
yeah.
Okay.
I have for painters and things like that, I usually have a couple of people because, you know, people, they get booked up and they get busy. So, and they're all very reliable. They're different price levels depending on who they are, but yes.
Interesting.
Yeah, because I will tell you with the trades, there are people that are individual handyman type people that will come in and do it. They don't carry liability insurance. And then if you get into a bigger company, they have more overhead because they have to, if they're general contractors, they have to carry more insurance and usually bigger crews. So that makes a difference on their pricing.
Okay.
So the next session, which will be in July, not next week, but the week after, will be the virtual property tours. And I will choose some live MLS listings to show you, as well as some interesting properties that I have found out about since we were last together. And we can go through them and check out the prices and the features of those. And then we'll move the session on decluttering and dealing with your stuff till the last session. Hopefully Claire will be all better, and that because that'll be 3 weeks from now. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
If you have any specific questions about your home or want a contractor at any point in time, just reach out because I've got lists of people that I deal with all the time, and I'm always a good resource if you need somebody that is reliable, trustworthy, and usually pretty good price.
Even if we're not selling right away?
Yeah, sure. It's always good to get a referral for a tradesperson that somebody else has used.
Exactly. Okay, that's great.
So can I ask you, you showed us those blinds, those mini slate back blinds. Are they good for blocking the light?
They're pretty good. They do have a wand where you can twist them and shut them. Yeah, they're just from Home Depot. They're quite inexpensive.
Okay.
But yeah, they're not totally blackout, but they're pretty good.
Okay.
You can close them. I keep everything open for showings, right? It has to be bright. So the drapes are open, the drapes are off, the blinds are up, the blinds are open. It's all for the sake of getting the really nice picture with lots of light in it.
Like, do you think those kind of blinds, those mini slate blinds, do you think they look better than the, the roller blinds?
You can get some nice roller blinds that are more updated. Like that blind cost, I think, $25 or $30. I don't know if you could find a roller blind for that cheap. And you can get roller blinds that are custom with different they make them with perforations now. So some of them come perforated with different light blocking characteristics. And then there's also on the higher end, zebra blinds. And they're like a loop of fabric that you can raise and lower, but the fabric has a sheer stripe and an opaque stripe. So if you line the stripes up, it's opaque. And if you line the sheer stripes up, it's sheer. And so there's a couple of different nice blinds that you can use. It depends how much money you want to spend and what the look is. The nice perforated roller blinds are more high end than those mini blinds. And then the zebra blinds are even more high end than that.
Okay.
Where do you get the zebra blinds?
You'd have to get them custom made. So you'd have to
Okay.
go to a blinds company for that.
Okay.
Thanks.
The roller blinds too. I got ones custom made. I have a condo that I rent out and we got them custom made. So they do sell roller blinds at IKEA that are pretty nice looking, but they only stock certain sizes, and
Yeah.
windows tend to be custom.
Mhm.
Mhm.
So you can find more variety of sizes in those, the little mini blinds.
Okay.
Hmm,
Okay.
sounds good.
Good.
Mhm.
All right. Well, have a lovely long weekend. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you, Sue. That's great.
Take
Thank
care.
you so much.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.